1995. We are interviewing Mordecai Topel. The interviewer is Miriam Horowitz. We are in Teaneck, New Jersey, in the United States of America, and the language of the interview is English.
Mr. Topel, from England, can you tell us where you lived until you came to the United States and what year you finally arrived here?
Maybe I could mention maybe one or two minor points in England itself. In England, I studied in the yeshiva. The head of the yeshiva, having known my family from home, he tried for me to become a diamond cleaver, diamond polisher, diamond cleaver, because we had some friends in yeshiva whose parents owned diamond factories. Notifying about this to my relatives in Israel, they were very much against it, because the diamond industry was in very bad shape in those days in Israel, and my aunt, who happened to have been here just 2 weeks ago, my father's younger sister, she suggested I should take up mechanical engineering, which I did, but not immediately. Having a great desire to go to Palestine, we joined a kibbutz in England, which was a kibbutz Bachat, outside of London, I would say about 35-40 miles from London, in Flexstead, where we stayed a full year in order to prepare ourselves to go to Palestine. After being there a year, we left the kibbutz because we received immigration certificates sent by our relatives from Israel, from Palestine. They sent us immigration certificates to be able to travel to Israel. Therefore, we left the kibbutz and we made preparations to go to Israel. In the meantime, I enrolled at the Northwestern Polytechnic in London, where I took up mechanical engineering. In 1948, my wife was expecting with our first baby. The doctors didn't allow her to travel. I had also there a contract to go to Palestine, which was, the contract was signed in 47 actually, to produce the Bible with a special translation by Professor Kasuto and Khartoum, which were professors of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And but again, I couldn't go in 48, and we had to delay it. In the meantime, I studied at the Northwestern Polytechnic, and until we got married, we lived in London until 1950. In 1950, we decided to make the trip to Israel. It was only a contract actually for 1 year, but we went to Israel and we stayed in Israel for 5 years. We stayed in Israel. In England, what shall I say, we conducted a very nice life, although after the war, London was bombed and the food situation wasn't very plentiful, but we got our rations from the government, exactly the same as each Briton got his, and we were able definitely to get by. There was no, so to say, shortage of food. In 1950, we went to Israel, and I started to work on the project of the Bible translation for the Hebrew University, in conjunction with a man in Jerusalem who had a contract also with the Hebrew University to produce, he was actually a printer, to produce this Bible for the Hebrew University. I worked for him 1 year in Jerusalem, after which the institute that's called now Boysan of Jerusalem, that has over 2,500 students enrolled at the moment. I was the first teacher in this establishment. I was actually the first one who established this institute in Jerusalem. At the same time also, I worked in the Jerusalem Post. I was in charge of producing the daily newspaper. I worked there again till we left Israel. The same day that I stopped working in Boys Town, I also stopped working in the Jerusalem Post. The reason why we left, my wife had a sister living in South America, in Chile. She wanted very much to see her. Therefore, I agreed to be sent as a teacher to teach Hebrew and Jewish history, and because I was a teacher before, I was teaching before and also, which I didn't mention in my tape. But I was sent through the Jewish agency, I was sent to Santiago, Chile, to teach there. And which was at the end of 1955.
And how long did you stay in Chile?
I stayed in Chile nearly 3 years. We stayed in Chile. I was teaching in Chile, and I was also instrumental in producing a weekly Jewish newspaper in Chile, Das Jüdische Wort. May have some copies still around here somewhere.
And from Chile you came to the United States?
From Chile, yes, I saw to it. Although I was supposed to have gone back to Israel, but I visited the country in 1957 and for a short visit, and I was able to get a preference visa to come to this country, and I decided to make my trip to the United States, and for the moment I'm very delighted and happy that I made this decision. We arrived in the United States in 1958. I went back to Chile after my short visit. I went back to Chile, and I continued teaching until the middle of, unfortunately, the school year, but we got a visa and we had to make use of it in order to be able to come to the United States, which we arrived here, I think, the beginning of September 1958. We arrived in the United States, and we settled in Washington Heights in Manhattan.
And what have you been doing since you came here? What kind of work have you been doing?
What I did since we came here, as I mentioned, in 1958. I went to work in a publishing firm here. At the same time, I also enrolled at Yeshiva University in Manhattan to continue my higher education, and I made there, in nearly 4 years, I made there my master's degree in education connected with psychology. It's a combined degree, psychology in education. But the master's was actually a master's in Jewish education. I graduated in 61, I think it was. I graduated from Yeshiva University with my master's degree, and in the meantime I worked for some publishing firms. In 61 I decided that I could do for myself the very same thing whatever I'm doing for someone else, and I came to the conclusion to establish my own firm. Not having any money, the only money what I had were $500. But in the place where I worked last, the place was called Manhattan Typographers. A very lovely man by Mr. Schneider. He decided to liquidate his place, and I happened to have stopped by quite many times in his, which was in the same building where I worked last, and he offered me to give me a machine, one of his machines that he sold. He'll give me one machine. Yeah, we were on very good terms. He offered me a machine, which I accepted eagerly. And with this machine, although I paid him for it later on a few $100, but with this machine I established my business in Manhattan. Originally, it was started in Washington Heights. The reason why in Washington Heights, because we lived in Washington Heights, and the second reason was because being a graduate of Yeshiva University, they printed and published a lot of things. It was very near to also to YU, and I got some work when I started my business. I got some work from Yeshiva University to produce for them.